Hi, this is Cleo, and you're listening to my podcast, Bread and Circuses with Cleo. Now, this episode is called The House Always Wins. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing is on the house, and the house always wins. Now, this term is taken from gambling, specifically the Vegas economy. It's a coin toss system, and I think that the idea of capitalistic success and what we see as, the people who make it. A lot of it is just luck, but even more than luck might be stacked against us from the get-go. Nepoism. So, billionaire populism is an oxymoron. I don't really like this idea of the right wing, the left wing, kind of almost this, it seems like a balanced equilibrium, the scales of justice. However, I think that much more than simply right and left, it's actually up and down. I think we need to remodel and rescale our ideas of politics. The idea of left wing and right wing comes from post-revolutionary France politics. And I think the problem is that increasingly we're seeing that we see people who are aligning with elites, aligning with people who are just better performing in society, who have the advantage in the coin toss system. And I think that it's just much more accurate to say it's a system of up and down, that the left is actually the down and the right is the up, or at least how you want to be associated with. But that's an upcoming idea that I haven't fully formulated. The thing is, I can have a lot of ideas, but they also have to be pithy. They have to be like an advertisement almost, but without the consumerism aspect to it. It has to be like a jingle. People remember it. It's like a rhyme that sticks in their brains, like facial labiaplasty. Anyway, surveillance. If you're not on brand or don't represent a brand of the company, then you're ousted. Now, I think one of my favorite double meanings to employ, and if you know my videos, if you know me as a person, you know that I love double meanings. And I think that language, it almost tells on itself, like something can have two different applications, but it essentially means the same thing, but in a different tone. And a lot of people don't connect words. Now, I think brand is a very good example. I'm often disturbed by how, I see these kind of people talk about, you gotta have a personal brand. But brand, incidentally, also means to etch permanently into the skin. It's like, it's a mark of torture from the brutalist era of punishment and capital sentencing. So I find it very interesting that we talk about branding and brands, and I see so many like marketing YouTubers and TikTokers who I don't really know what to make of them. They're definitely not anti-capitalist. If anything, they analyze it quite well, but they like it. They like consumerism. They like to analyze it, but you kind of need them around so they can decode things for you. We're talking about why does this branding work? What about the personal brand here? Why is this selling? And I think the idea of a personal brand is directly related to this idea of gambling. I think that in capitalistic, actually a better word would be consumeristic. I think that in a consumeristic system, because remember, Vegas is a miniature, downsized diorama of capitalism itself. You have the excess, the flashing lights, the sex work. if you want to go there, but there's layers of sex work. It's not an even playing field if we're going to use this analogy. And I think I've used a Vegas analogy in a long ago video. I don't even remember when. How when we have, we have more money to begin with, we have more chances, but I think that ultimately we go broke. I think that the final stage of capitalism is everyone being broke, because the house always wins. capitalism is a machine that gives you tokens, but it's not real substance. And I find it interesting that we talk about, the populists, how they're appealing to the masses, white America, whatever you want to call it. But they're billionaires, and billionaires are not in any way representative of the everyday working white man. And yet somehow they identify with them. Elon Musk, Trump. There's levels of billionaireism. It's interesting. Who's more powerful, Elon or Trump? I mean, he's exited Doge, but he'll be back. He's trying to found a new party that is supposed to be populist. It's supposed to be pandering to the white majority, to the moral majority, to the traditional values. And he's the richest man in the world. But that's what I mean by the house always wins. He is seen as successful by the house, and because we're all playing the slot machines, all of us think that we're going to get our big break. It also reminds me of Hollywood as well. Most people who try to be in the entertainment industry fail. Another double meaning I've written down here. A lot of times I use double meanings as springboards for ideas. This is not a very structured video, by the way. This is more of just a stream of consciousness rant. Yeah. Ranking. When we think about social classes and social stations and positions, and I talked about this a lot in videos as well, we have this idea of a rank, that there are some people who are more distinguished than others. They have their medals of honor, whether that be social media following or money or some kind of social currency. Actually, I find it interesting. We talk about social currency and social capital. This is another idea I've been kind of toying with for a while. But this idea of capital, specifically, this is a bit of an off topic, because this is not what the podcast is about, but as it relates to, I've been such a critic of this, that kind of new age spirituality that tells you if you think good thoughts, you'll make a bunch of money. On a deep level, I find that repulsive, but it's so capitalistic, because everything is about gaining capital, whether it be social capital. If I manifest, I can get, friends and followers and influence, or sexual market value, you can increase it by, making yourself more attractive. Or capital, meaning money. Any spirituality that promotes those three tenets, saying you can get by using our system a backstage pass, then it's not real spirituality. Spirituality subsumes the physical body. It's not going to be of this earth. And again, what do I know? What do I know? So, ranking. I think that in order to dismantle a capitalistic society, we have to break ranks. If you are the rank and file. Rank and file is very interesting because it means coordinated positions, specifically on a chessboard, that you are confined to your own little compartment, your own little space, your own little square. But you also correspond to the other squares. It's very geometrical in its positioning. We think about rank and file, the horizontal and vertical axis on which we all live. We're not the chess pieces. I barely know how to play chess, but so this analogy works. We're not the main players. There's squares to step on, but we have our own little designated space. What is it? A3, B2. I could be completely wrong, by the way. My dad was a chess champion when he was younger. He had this strange resolve that my brother and I would never play chess because he didn't want them to get addicted to it. Which, Dad, no, I was not going to get addicted to it. When we think about resisting the kind of boxing and containment, the fact that we're in our own little designated squares, breaking ranks of the rank and file is the only way we're going to be not stepping stones. And I think that the reason why I talk a lot about, in my videos, de-individualization, categorization, systems of classification, is because I sense that it's just a way for us to be filed away in a rank, especially with women, and I talk a lot about this, is that we are sorted, classed, and categorized and ranked. And just like how, I think of kind of, what is it called? Kind of the old arcade video games. They would have a rank of players in terms of how high their score is. That's just like how it is with all people, but especially women, especially because we're constantly looking for the big three. But I think for women, it's most important is our sexual market value, which I find that term dehumanizing, but it's a list and ranking of players. And I think that any system where people are ranked in a hierarchy, there's never going to be, no one's going to win. Now, the reason I say no one's going to win, even though you see people getting riches, I mean, if you have a strong enough personal brand, this is another interesting phenomenon in a capitalistic society, in a media-based system, where the media is privately owned, and again, media being privately owned doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, always. Government-run media can be dicey, but I think when we talk about private companies that are only looking for profit, it doesn't matter if your personal brand is for the betterment of society. It doesn't matter if there's a net good in you being famous or you having a strong personal brand or you making a lot of money. Instead, it's all about utility. It's all about, basically the motto of the capitalistic system is, if it makes money, it's good. And that's why we have so much evil in the world. Because there's this idea that, yeah, you may not like Elon, but he made a lot of money, so he's doing something right. But the house, the earth, he has those dreams of going to Mars. We're running out of time, all of us on this earth. Both in that we're all gonna die. And that's why I think in my life I try to be as non-materialistic as possible. It's because I have this kind of deep awareness that I'm just gonna die and nothing I own will be carried on. Well, unless you're like an Egyptian pharaoh or something. Didn't they get buried with stuff so they could take it on to the next life? Don't quote me on that. My Egyptian mythology is a bit rusty. But, even then I'm sure that was a way of reinforcing class. Hey, they also get to take their stuff with them. Like, death is incorporeal. And if death is incorporeal, then I think that life should be in some ways as well. Anytime you get ranked, it may seem like people are winning. And with personal brands, there's this idea that, yeah, even if something is a net negative for the world, even if there's no social good to be had with something, if it's successful, if it makes money, it's seen as a good and positive thing. Case in point, the Kardashian empire. I think that's a bit of an outdated one. Everyone says the Kardashians, right? There are more modern examples. Like, I think of Jojo Siwa. I am, present tense, a huge fan of dance moms. And I grew up with Jojo, and seeing her be the most successful of the dance moms girls, there's this kind of pride, because we understand, if you watch the show, like, she's supposed to be a winner at performance. However, what gnaws at me about Jojo, even though there's part of me that wants to see her succeed just because I knew her as a 12-year-old girl on Dance Moms, And, you know, the whole point of dance moms is, you know, people making it in the entertainment industry is seen as winning. Jojo has I don't think there's any positive she's really giving to the world. I think that when she was a children's star, you know, kind of like, you know, Jojo was almost a little bit like kind of those Nick stars, Disney star, maybe not even Disney star, like a Nick star. I think she performed at malls and had tours. I think that made little girls happy, but I think that her personal brand, as it stands now, it's hollow, and it's purely based on the fact that she's successful. Success for the sake of success. And that to me is empty. So even though, yes, Jojo, on a list of world players, I mean, she's not number one, but she's certainly higher than almost everyone. She's not a rank and file square that gets stepped on. It's kind of the board for kind of the more powerful power plays. She is not the number one ranked player, but she's ranked a lot higher than me. And you. And everyone else who's listening to this podcast. Like, you know, for all I know, Michelle Obama. First distinguished person that came to my head. Michelle Obama's watching this. You know, but presumably you and me and everyone else. She's successful. But what's the deeper point? And, you know, being an influencer, and I call myself an influencer even though I don't influence people to buy things, because I think of myself as an influencer of ideas, you know, don't get lip filler. I see the attention economy, social currency, the ranking, and especially, I mean, I don't know if necessarily everyone in the capitalistic system is, you know, pay to play and you know, kind of puts their coins in the slot hoping to win big. But certainly if you are in any kind of public facing, and I actually would consider influencing to be the entertainment industry. I don't know if that's controversial or not, but I would consider that to be so. If you are in the entertainment industry in any capacity, you're putting your coin in the slot. And sometimes it gets really tempting to just get attention. Because it doesn't even matter what you're doing, as long as you're successful at it. I think of another person who's currently blowing up. Oh my gosh. My For You page is trying to convince me that Addison Ray is like this big pop star. It's funny how they're trying to, I mean, I feel myself being influenced by it because, you know, I just see all this, you know, content like Addison Ray, what is she doing? And to me, it's such manufactured hype. I actually made a video about this quite a long time ago, but trends as industry plans. I mean, I think Addison Ray would be considered an industry plant. What even is that? I think that an industry plant is any artist that gets promoted. Like, I'm sorry, like a lot of artists get promoted on the For You page, and whenever I hear someone's song out of nowhere, all of a sudden playing, and they're everywhere, I know that there's some kind of industry plant. I'm not going to name names because people get mad, but indignant. Yes, they're trying to convince me Addison Ray is somebody. But from what I've seen from her personal brand, it's like, what's the deeper meaning here? And that's what I mean by branding also meaning to get marked. To have a brand is not necessarily a good thing. It's limiting. I mean, even sometimes I feel like in my own way, even though I try to resist, I don't even want to call myself an anti-trend, you know, like that's also a trend. I try to not participate in the system as much as I can, although some amount of it is inevitable. I mean, I'm putting my coins in those slots. And I also saw a very interesting video. I don't normally watch videos like this, but it was talking about how Billie Eilish used to be an industry disruptor, and now she's just kind of the mainstream. I would agree with that. And I didn't realize it until they said it, there's almost no one as mainstream as Billie Eilish. And I noticed what the industry did. I mean, if I was Billie, which I'm not, but if I was her, what I would have done is, if I had the whole music in my bedroom empire, I wouldn't have signed with a major record label. I think that was a mistake. I think that her brand, her legacy would be a lot stronger if she resisted the music industry entirely and was successful in spite of it, and she could have been. Now, I'm not her, and I think that requires a lot of, foresight and a lot of, wanting to be a disruptor instead of just taking part in it. But yeah, she's very mainstream now. There's really no one else mainstream like her. She gets all the awards, she has all the brand deals, which, I'm sorry, when an artist does brand deals, it is such a turn off for me. No, I actually don't think there is such a thing as an ethical brand deal. It's always selling out. It's never not selling out. But people need to make money as well. That's where they got you. And that's another thing when I think about, startups. I think I've actually talked about startups on this before, but, it's kind of like when investors, they call them venture capitalists, which I find to be so funny. Like, let's just throw any kind of socialistic, communistic, Marxist ideas out the window that we're even pretending that we like those things or we're open to those perspectives. Venture capitalists. And people are like, oh, Silicon Valley is so liberal. They used to say that. I'm like, no, it's not. I've been there. I've spent a lot of time in the Valley. No, it's not. It's not liberal at all. I mean, people know that now, but they didn't know it back then, in late 2010s. Yeah. Basically, when you're a fledgling startup, you have to take money from people. And not all of those people are good people who have your best interest at heart. I mean, they're sharks. They want to get a good deal. And they own you. Your board of directors owns you. You give 10% of your company there, you give 5% here, and you have to. And then eventually, their creative decisions can outweigh yours as the founder. And it becomes unrecognizable. But you had to because you didn't have the funds on your own. They also call them angel investors, which I think is also such a funny term. They also call them startup incubators. There's I actually used to think Silicon Valley was interesting, and I used to have an interest in perhaps pursuing a tech career. Fun fact about me, I don't feel that way anymore. I've been completely repulsed and turned away from any kind of field like that. It's funny, I remember not that long ago, don't ask me what inspired me to do this, but I looked at Forbes 30 under 30. I was just scrolling, and I was almost kind of spacing out, and then all of a sudden I see a familiar face. I'm not going to say her name. And then I do a double take. I'm like, no, this is her. And I had been told from someone that she had become really rich and she had made a lot of money and on a startup, and I don't know what I thought, because she's only a year older than me, so she's in her early 20s, right? She was rejected from MIT, by the way, and she was really devastated about that. That's something. So if you ever get rejected from something like that, she didn't even go to college. There's also a weird cult in the Valley of not going to college. My jaw dropped. I said, no, this can't be her. And it was her. And I knew it was her. And I thought, she made it. She actually made it. But that's the thing, is that I don't know anything about her life. I knew her when we were teens. Clearly, she's now, I don't even know how much money she has, but it's a lot. She has one of the most rapidly one of the most rapidly valued companies in the world. But then again, she was a wealthy girl to begin with. She had her parents fund a dream for her to live in San Francisco, and it worked out. So yeah, that's my little story of the girl I knew in Forbes 30 Under 30. But I don't know much about her otherwise. But if we're going back to the idea of, they own you, basically. When people give you money, there's no such thing as a free lunch. They may say that they believe in what you say and you seem charismatic and everything, but if they put a stake in your company, they own you. So this idea of kind of the proprietor, of the entrepreneur, the self-starter, they have to get it, and also kind of the system of networking as well. I've always found networking to be kind of a disturbing concept because it's kind of like transactional friendship. I mean, I couldn't even do it if I tried. I mean, the thing is, I don't have enough, I don't want to say social skills, because I have social skills when I genuinely like the person I'm talking to. I think my social skills are actually pretty great, but I can't fake it, actually. I can't fake liking someone. It's just not in my nature. But kind of like you start networking and then you get ingratiated and more implicated with people in power until you look in the mirror and you're just like them. You might have started off as a small business person. And as your company grew, the demands from your investors got more pressing. But that's a very specific example of the house always winning. Because it's not about your individual ambitions anymore. It's about you becoming kind of a shell of yourself. And I think you also see this phenomenon in music artists as well. I mean, how often have we seen a celebrity and a music artist, they have their first album or two, and it's raw and real and different, and an industry disruptor, right? And then they get famous, and then they come out with their next album, and it's all about partying. And, even if it's kind of like this, it's like so tragic how my life has become. The music, I've noticed, almost always becomes more navel-gazing. They become very self-obsessed. I mean, the world is obsessed with them. And it shows, because they have investors. They have people who they're beholden to. The music industry hooks its claws into you. I mean, it's so hard to say with the music industry, with Silicon Valley, how pure of an idea the people who run it are. I mean, how much of, Elon Musk, and believe me, Elon Musk has people he reports to, how much of him is puppet theater, really? Actually, I would say that all public-facing figures, I don't know if I'm influential or powerful enough to be this category, but I think that with very few exceptions, all public figures are taking orders from other people who are more powerful and wealthy than them. Which is why a lot of people are saying, why do these celebrities not comment about politics? Why don't they talk about Palestine? I think we need to be a little more understanding that celebrities don't have free speech. I think that most celebrities are signed to contracts that forbids them from saying certain political ideologies. And if they have to get political and they're backed into a corner, they have a very carefully worded, PR-approved, message that they share. Which is why a lot of people are disappointed in so many celebrities, especially the higher up and the more implicated in the system they are. And actually, this isn't even just Hollywood, I'm talking most public figures. Even politics. Oh God, politics, right? I mean, we're talking more about the private sector today, but yeah. celebrities, front-facing people, I've talked about how celebrities are the lowest class of the elites and how they're the infantry members, that if there was ever a class revolt, they would be the ones who are executed. Which is why, you can throw tomatoes at them, but you're kind of supposed to. They're jesters. They have proximity. Oh, they have proximity, but they're jesters. They get to be in the castles. They get to wear nice clothes. I find it so interesting how a celebrity wearing a designer at a red carpet, custom designer, it's seen as such a status symbol, but that is a brand. And if you partner with a brand, they own you. If you don't say something that's on brand or representative of their brand, they will drop you. Now, this can be either good or bad in terms of, if they find out that you're racist or creepy or you have certain allegations against you, they'll drop you because they don't want anything to do with you because it tarnishes their reputation. But it also means that they are highly restricted in what they're able to say. They can't just say Free Palestine. They can't just say, what's another, really out there thing, political thing that's right. In fact, I see, actually, a lot of celebrities are not talking about the ICE. I made a video saying it's not raids, it's ethnic cleansing, but alligator Alcatraz, they're not talking about that. In fact, I'm even a little disappointed in leftists, because I see very few people talking about that. The most I see people talking about are kind of run-of-the-mill liberals, or most of the people I see talking about alligator Alcatraz. That should be talked about more, and I'm a little disappointed in the leftist community. Maybe I'm not being exposed to that content for whatever reason, but most of it I've seen are anti-Trump Democrats talking about it, which is not okay. I think leftists, we do like to maintain our ideological integrity by not participating in the system. But unfortunately, I think that sometimes it means that when there is systemic oppression coming from a certain government that's elected in, i.e. Trump, it's kind of like, the whole system's bad anyway. It's like, okay, but it is worse now. Which is why all these people were DMing me and sending me comments saying, please talk about the controversial Selena Gomez, Sabrina Carpenter album. She's being pulled by her hair and she's on the ground on all fours and it's man's best friend. She's calling herself a dog. And I look at that and I go, okay, you're just showing some, okay, I hope the Carpenter fandom doesn't rage at me, but I doubt she has a lot of creative freedom. Just from what I see from her brand, I don't think she has a lot of say in what she does. I think that was probably a behind-the-scenes decision that did not involve her very much. In fact, I think she's just as uncomfortable with her rampant sexualization as everyone else. And probably within a couple decades we'll find out more. But for now it's girly pop. But actually I see a lot of signs that she's not super comfortable with her over-sexualized image. And I think we need to stop pretending like celebrities are free agents. They are not. So even if your favorite celebrity actually really does stand for good causes and political, especially if there's someone like Sabrina Carpenter, which, they don't have free speech. That's what I mean by the house always wins. And there's no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing is on the house. Because even to succeed in this system, to, get enough coins in the slot so that you can win big, you either have to have a family that's wealthy or connected. You have to be willing to completely alter and change yourself at the whim of what someone else wants you to be, a creative director, an investor, whatever. And those types tend to be people who don't really care about what they're known for as long as they're known. But most people answer to someone higher than themselves. And if you see somebody, there's someone behind them. Because celebrity is shadow puppetry. you don't really see who's controlling them. This goes from politicians, this goes for celebrities in Hollywood, this goes for prominent business people, even though they tend to be less public, and more in kind of their own insular Mountain View neighborhood. But I think I'll end this here now, but I'll leave you with this little pithy statement. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing is on the house, and the house always wins.